We spent the last 4 weeks looking at the fear of God. And we took as one of our verses from Proverbs 1:7. It said, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction." The word there for knowledge and wisdom and instruction are all synonyms for each other. In other places it says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So I thought, okay, we wrapped up a series on the fear of God, and that's the beginning of wisdom, so where do we go from here? To wisdom. So let's talk about some wisdom. So I thought for the next few weeks we're going to look at some passages out of Proverbs. I'm not going to do the whole book because that would take forever. But there is a part starting in the 22nd chapter. We won't look at it too much today. Starting the 17th verse, it's called the 30 sayings of the wise. And the writer of Proverbs says, I have 30 sayings of the wise. And it extends from the middle of chapter 22 through chapter 24. And it has obviously 30 sayings of the wise. That's why it's called what it's called. So we're going to look at those over the next couple, 2 or 3 weeks, and see how far we can get on that. All of us carry with us some collective wisdom that was passed on to us by the people who've been significant in our lives. It might have been some wisdom we picked up from our parents, or from good friends, from a coach, from our bosses or coworkers, relatives, whoever. Somebody in your life has told you something, and you go, that's a good motto for life. I need to latch on to that. And so you've heard mottos like, well, penny saved is penny earned. Or look both ways before. All right. Do to others what you would have. All right. There's no I. In team. All right. Or I was told that hard work is its own reward. You probably have some motto like that you picked up on, something you learned from your parents. What's the biggest motto you've heard? Tell the person next to you. You've got 12 seconds. A motto that you picked up on that you were taught, that your parents just drove into you, or a coach or somebody, and you said, yes, that's a motto for life. Go ahead, share something. Or maybe I should be asking parents, what's a good motto you've tried to pass on to your kids that they never listened to? See, we all have this wisdom, we all have these ideas that pass through our heads, those things that keep echoing in our minds that mom always told me, or dad always said, or my coach or my teachers. And some of that wisdom is very helpful. Some of that stuff's been very good for us, but some of it is just plain wrong. For example, some of you may have been taught you need to look out for number one. Well, looking out for number one means I make sure that my needs are met. Once my needs are met, then I'll start worrying about you. Well, when you get married, you figure out that that's really bad advice. Or once you have kids, you realize that's almost impossible to do. Part of being an adult is sorting through this stuff and finding out what is really a good, wise saying, and what was I told that I probably need to ignore. What's truly consistent with the way that God designed us? And what is it that's really contrary to living a life that brings joy and happiness? See, today we're going to start this series about wisdom. And we're going to start by finding out what wisdom is, what the Proverbs are, because we're going to be studying out of Proverbs, and then some prerequisites to living wisely. So this is just kind of an introduction. We'll get into the heavy stuff next week. So what is wisdom? The Hebrew word translated wisdom usually refers to some kind of a skill or ability. A lot of us think wisdom is a mental thing, is what we think. But the way the word started, it was a skill or an ability. It was used to describe the work of the weavers who wove the elaborate garments of Aaron, the high priest. Well, you read about it in Exodus chapter 28, as God's giving him instructions on how this is supposed to be made, how the tabernacle is supposed to be made, and how the adornments of the garments for the priests are supposed to be. He says, tell all the skilled workers whom I have given wisdom in such matters, that they're to make the garments for Aaron, for his consecration, so that he may serve me as priest. Basically what he's saying is there are people who are gifted. I've gifted them to be good with weaving. They know how to make garments better than everybody else. They're skilled at that. They're wise in that. So did you know that weaving garments and being good at it is a skill? It's a wisdom. some of you. The weaver's ability to follow God's design for manufacturing the garment was labeled as wisdom. And then from that point on, the Israelites started equating wisdom with a skill for living. And so wisdom's been defined as the skill to live a life according to God's plan. The wise person is one who patterns his finances, his goals, his relationships, every aspect of his life according to the specifications revealed by God. So the Hebrew word distinguishes wisdom from knowledge, because a person can have a mind full of facts, full of knowledge, full of book learning, and still not have any skills, not have any ability to use any of that. Often the authors of the books in the Bible use this word wisdom to describe people who are skilled in a trade or a craft, obviously like weavers, but also woodworking, metalworking, embroidery, weaving. All of these things it calls wisdom. So if you have a skill in something, some kind of craft, you can make things with your hands, that's wisdom. But the same word is used for people who are skillful in learning tasks like trade, business, leadership, even sailing. So if you have a skill, there is a sense or a source of wisdom there. But it always has to do with a skill for living, according to God's plan. So what's God's plan? See, wisdom is what we need to fulfill God's purpose for our life. God has designed each of us and given us specific skills, specific abilities, so that we could do something He intended for us to do. He has a purpose for us. And when we figure out what it is God gifted us to do, and we use those skills to accomplish what He wanted us to accomplish, that is how we show or exemplify that we have wisdom. So that's wisdom, what it is. It's a skill for living. It's a skill for doing the things that God created us to do. All right, so what's a proverb? Proverbs are short, memorable sayings whose meanings are relevant to many different situations, like we talked about earlier, or like the kinds of things you hear from Forrest Gump. You know, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Stupid is as stupid does. Those are proverbs. Every society has its own set of proverbs that represent the collective wisdom of that society. So some other examples. Look before you leap. Easy come, easy go. You knew that one pretty well. A bird in the hand is worth. All right, very good. So we have those in our culture. All these little sayings or things you got from a teacher or a parent or somewhere. They're proverbs. They're little snippets of truth. Well, the Bible's book of Proverbs, called Proverbs because it's a collection of all these little sayings, represents that. It's a collection of wisdom from ancient Israel. Most of these proverbs come from King Solomon, but there are also several sayings from other teachers as well. In large chunks of the book, they're little one-verse or two-verse sayings, and they're not put in any specific order. So if you just read through Proverbs, it seems kind of random. The first little series is a teacher telling his son him about teach all this stuff. So that makes a little bit of sense. The last chapter talks about the wise woman, what we call the Proverbs 31 woman. So that makes a little bit of sense. But a lot of what's in between there is just a hodgepodge of miscellaneous little snippets of truth. They're Proverbs. All right? Proverbs isn't a book. A proverb is a little one or two-liner to help you live life. It's likely the book of Proverbs started as a book to help parents instruct their kids in life skills. And so the first 9 chapters of Proverbs is a father instructing his son how to live wisely in the world. And so that was its primary purpose. It was a parenting strategy, so moms and dads could equip their children to live life the way God designed it. As time went by, it was used to teach adults too, because some of us missed that training in our youth. So it's an instruction manual for life. How to live a wise life. How do you live a life skilled in the things that God wanted you to do. Now it's important to understand the sayings we find in the book of Proverbs are generalizations of what's true most of the time. They're guidelines for living, but we shouldn't turn them into rigid, absolute promises. The sayings tell us what usually works most of the time, but Proverbs don't work every time. So don't read Proverbs as if they're this promise that God gave me. All right, so for example, one proverb says, a gentle answer turns away wrath. Well, generally that's true. When somebody's upset, if you'll give them a gentle answer, if you'll stay calm, it'll turn away their wrath and they'll calm down a little bit too. But that doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes a gentle answer, they still blow up. All right? So, yeah, it makes sense. You should give a gentle answer because it works most of the time. But when it doesn't, don't say, well, the proverb was wrong. It's a generalization. All right? Or another proverb says, the years of the wicked will be short. Well, more often than not, that's the case. A lifestyle of wickedness generally leads you to do some silly things that cut your life short. It kills brain cells. It causes you to put yourself in dangerous situations. But as Ecclesiastes observes, that's not always true. Sometimes the wicked prosper. So these aren't absolutes, but they're generalizations. Observations about how life works in most cases. So that's the proverb. All right? Finally, some prerequisites to living wisely. Again, the place to begin, if you want to be wise, is the fear of the Lord. Wisdom begins with understanding who God is. Because wisdom is living skilled according to the plan that God gave us, the design that He gave us, the talents that He gave us. But if I don't understand who God is, if I don't have any respect or fear of God, then what do I care? And so wisdom starts with understanding the fear of the Lord. Now, most biblical teachers view that verse, the fear of the Lord, as the beginning of knowledge or the beginning of wisdom. It's kind of the motto or theme of the entire book of Proverbs. Whatever else is there, it needs to come under that umbrella of God's in charge. This is under respecting Him. All right? So let me give you another prerequisite. First of all is the fear of the Lord. Everything falls under that. We also have to pursue wisdom. It doesn't just happen. Some of us think that because we've been on this earth for a lot of years, we're wise. I won't name names, but I know some people who have been on this planet for a long time that aren't very wise. All right? Someone stand up in front of you and speak. Proverbs 4:7 says, the beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom. Though it costs you all you have, get understanding. Now, this is actually part of a poem. I pulled it out of the middle of the chapter there. There's a poem about the importance of wisdom. It says, you need to get wisdom. And the beginning of wisdom is this: go get it. Pursue it. Desire it. The pursuit of wisdom is one of the most important things in life we can do. It's more important than I'm going to pursue a promotion. I'm going to pursue getting rich and famous. I'm going to pursue a career in you. More important than that is getting wisdom. What does God give you to do? What is it that God wants you to do with your life? When you understand what He's gifted you to do and what you want to do with your life, you can become skilled in doing what He's created you to do, and that leads you to the life that pleases God. So how do we pursue that kind of wisdom? Well, first of all, I think the most important thing we can do is ask God. Pray to God. Ask Him for wisdom. God, would you give me wisdom? Would you help me know how you created me? In the New Testament, the Bible learns that if we lack wisdom, we should ask God for it. And the reality is most of us, if not all of us, lack wisdom at some level. And so James chapter 1, verse 5 says, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it'll be given to you. If you want wisdom, you gotta ask God. And God won't laugh at you. Yeah, you need some wisdom. Or God won't find fault. Well, you wouldn't need wisdom if you hadn't done that. Well, if I had wisdom, I wouldn't have done that. All right? So God doesn't find fault. He gives. So we start our pursuit by admitting that we lack wisdom and asking God for it. We also pursue wisdom by reading the Bible. You might start with some of the wisdom literature, like, Proverbs. You can read a chapter of Proverbs every day. There are 31 chapters in Proverbs. There are 31 days in a month. So today is the 25th. So you can go read the 25th chapter of Proverbs. Tomorrow you can read the 26th chapter. And if the month ends before you get through, that's okay. The last two chapters aren't that important. It's about women. And no, that's not true. But just to help you remember which one to read, you go, well, what day is it? You know, I haven't been reading it for a week. I'm behind. Where do I start? Well, today start with the 25th. What are the first 24 verses or chapters? We'll get those next month. All right? That's one way to do it. Another way that we pursue wisdom is by developing an art of observation. A lot of us think that we're people watchers. You don't watch them. You go to the mall and you watch them and what they do. All right? That's how most of the Proverbs came about. It was careful observation of people who wanted to see what works for people. A guy who is lazy and doesn't work, oh look, he doesn't have any food, now he's hungry. A guy who works hard, saves up, and now in the winter when it's cold, he has food to eat. I observed that, and then they make a proverb about the wise man and the lazy man and the ant and the grasshopper and the turtle in the hare and whatever proverbs you want to come up with there. But observe the world around you. Watch how people respond, what the consequences are from what they do, and learn from it. Remember Jesus told us that a man reaps what he sows? So watch what people are sowing, and then see what they reap from that. And then make some observations about that. Does it make sense that every time a person does that, they get this? If that's generally it, then maybe you've got a proverb. Certainly got some wisdom there, something you can learn from. But I would caution you not to just go out and make observations and say, well, if I cheat on my test paper, then I don't get caught and I pass the class. All right? If I cheat on my taxes, the IRS probably won't catch me and I'll get away with it. Or if I tell the boss that I did that when somebody else did, then maybe I'll get promoted. Sometimes the things don't work so well for us. And you can see how people fail in those things, but you can also weigh that against other scripture and say, is that really consistent with God wants? So don't just make the observations, weigh it against the scripture. Weigh it against the things that God tells you when you pray. And finally, we pursue wisdom by following an accurate moral code. Every culture, every person has a moral code. And you watch the movies and you see how the gangsters have a moral code. Very immoral people have a moral code. When I was a wee lad, I used to take things that didn't belong to me. But I had a moral code about it. I never stole from a person that I knew. All right? That's a moral code. Is that a sufficient one? Well, no. But it's a moral code. All right? Cannibals have a moral code. They will not eat anybody in their own tribe. All right? We all have a moral code. The question is your moral code accurate and helpful? Proverbs 4:18 and 19 says, the path of the righteous is like the morning sun, shining ever brighter till full light of day. But the way of the wicked is like deep darkness. They don't know what makes them stumble. This path of the righteous becomes a common theme that pictures life as being like a journey. We have all these little different paths. We can take different roads, different forks in the road, but we have to make a choice. And the path of the righteous isn't righteous because the people who choose it are righteous. The righteous path is righteous because it is the right path. And when I choose the right path, I become right because I'm going the right way. So I don't make the path righteous or unrighteous by my unrighteousness or righteousness. The path is what it is. Oftentimes, again, the path of the wicked isn't wicked because of the kind of people who choose it. The path of the wicked is wicked because it's inconsistent with what God wants. And as you go down that path, you start doing wicked things. So the roads that we choose matter. A lot of us say, if I'm a good person, then I can do whatever I want. Well, that's not completely true. Because if I'm a righteous person, if I'm a good person, then I'll want to choose the right or righteous path. I don't want to do the wrong things. And life doesn't work the way we thought it should, and we wonder why our relationships keep falling apart, and life just doesn't work, and circumstances keep popping up. And we chalk it up to bad luck. You know, I've had 5 marriages. I don't know how I find these guys. They must be horrible guys. Where am I finding all these guys? Well, there's a common denominator in those 5 marriages. Right? Sometimes we go down a wrong path, and life fails, and we go, why is this? We chalk it up to bad luck, we chalk it up to whatever. But maybe we've chosen the path of the wicked. That anybody that goes down that path is going to have that failure, that problem. It's not you, it's the path. And so we have to have a moral code, a path that leads us to do what is right. A moral code provides us with a direction, a sense of right and wrong, good and evil. And when we live by an accurate moral code, according to God's design, life works. Not that there's no bumps in the road, things happen, but life works. And when we live by an inaccurate moral code, contrary to God's design, life doesn't work. So we need to follow an accurate moral code, not just anything, but something consistent with God's design. Finally, we pursue wisdom by building a life plan that's according to God's plan. We always go up to kids and we say, what do you want to do when you grow up? Or we go to college students and say, what do you major in? What do you want to do when you get out of college? Or when you go in for a job interview, the boss says, tell me what you want to do in 10 years. And we come up with these life plans, these goals, these things we want to accomplish. Proverbs 19:21 says, many are the plans in a person's heart, but it's the Lord's purpose that prevails. So even though we come up with strategies and schemes to accomplish our goals, ultimately, God's plan will be established. God will make sure things get done His way. So the implication of this proverb is that a wise person is going to align their life, their strategies, their plans with God's purpose. Knowing that God's purpose is going to prevail in the end. So if my plan is consistent with or goes into His plan, then it's probably going to work out in the end. If my plan is contrary to what I know is going to prevail in the end, then can I infer from that my plan is going to fail somewhere along the line? That's the reason why we must ultimately reject so many of the self-help kinds of teachings that we get now in the books and the TV and all this stuff. Most of the books focus on self-fulfillment. Looking within, rather than being God-centered. Looking, what's God gifted you to do? What kinds of abilities and skills has God put into you? And so while some of these self-help books might have some good insights, the one thing that lacks is a passion for God's plan. The plan that's going to prevail in the end. So we need to make sure our plan lines up with that. Build a life plan that's consistent with God's plan. That's an introduction to where we're going to go in Proverbs. 30 sayings of the wise. We're going to start looking at next week in chapter 22, I believe verse 17, if you want to get ahead and start reading. It might be 14. Whoever's up there earlier. But if you want to read ahead, that's fine. We're going to start looking through those. And again, these aren't a progression. It's not if you do this one first and then this one and this one. It's just 30 random thoughts, sayings of the wise that were brought together by an instructor teaching probably his son. He says, here son, this is what you need to know. If you can live by these things. So we're looking at what does it makes a man wise? And hopefully, through this study, you and I can become skilled in what God has called us to do. We can be wise. Let's pray. Father, we do pray, first of all, that you would give us wisdom. We come before you acknowledging that sometimes we do things based on what feels good at the moment, or what we've observed and seen, and we've never actually taken the time to come before you and ask you to lead. So we come now and we ask, would you give us wisdom? And help us understand, Father, that as we pray, you'll give without finding fault. So help us humble our own thoughts, our own plans, our own strategies to allow you to teach us. Would you shape us into people we need to be? Would you shape our thought process, change. It might mean we have to move to another place. But Father, would you grant us the wisdom to know? We want to come before you. We want to humble ourselves before you. We want to say we're done trying to do it our way. We recognize the fear of the Lord, who you are, that you have created us, and that you have, as creator, you have all authority and power.